State Representative Peter Abbarno here with State Representative Chris Corry. We just got off floor session debating House Bill 1240, which was a bill that is restricting Second Amendment rights for a lot of folks who are law-abiding citizens, because it deals with not just the sale of firearms and some of the parts of firearms, but also distribution. And that doesn't mean large distribution. It could also mean distribution amongst individuals. And there was a lot of debate and a lot of amendments to discuss how we can restrict that. Unfortunately, even with the amendments, that House bill ended up passing tonight.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing to see the just the blatant disregard for both the U.S. Constitution as well as the Washington State Constitution. We're going to continue to have that fight over in the other chamber, but we will continue to, obviously watch that situation and make sure that we're doing our best to protect our Second Amendment rights here in Washington State.
But after wrapping up the first half of the legislative session and all the bills that came out of the House, there were a number of victories when bills didn't come out of the House, and sometimes that actually is a victory.
Absolutely. One of the ones that we were hearing a lot about was House Bill 1333, which would have the Attorney General form a commission to label misinformation and disinformation, as well as target political speech here in the state. So we were happy to see that one go.
Yeah, that was one that we didn't want, and also qualified immunity that would hold law enforcement officers personally liable for the work they do every day to protect our communities. And I think that was a victory for that not to have come to the House floor and pass.
Absolutely. And then, one other area that we were hearing a lot about was bills around landlord-tenant relationships, some including rent control, amongst others, that really continued to push the favor towards the renter instead of the landlord. And instead of having a balance, you had pretty one-sided policy in the state. So we were happy that that stopped today.
Yeah, and some good bills that passed. There was a lot of good legislation around workforce development. There was a lot of good legislation around education aspect of it. There were some missed opportunities around really focusing on those who are the most vulnerable in our community. Probably most importantly, choosing criminals over victims by eliminating or allowing criminals to waive their legal financial obligations to victims, as well as lowering the enhancements of sentences for criminals who commit gun and drug crimes in protected zones like school bus zones and schools themselves.
Yeah, and I think one other issue around public safety we've heard about is police pursuit. People seeing the negative impact of that bill that was passed a few years ago. The House bill version did not pass today, but fortunately we did receive news that the Senate passed their version out, so we'll get a chance to restore some police pursuit and hopefully some law and order in our streets.
Yeah, so there were some good things, there were some bad things, there were some ugly things, but the first half of the legislative session is a wrap, and so we'll go back to our committee meetings for the next few weeks. We'll be debating a lot of the Senate bills that are coming over the House. The Senate's going to be debating some of the House bills, and then we'll be back on the floor in mid-late April to try to reconcile those pieces of legislation so we can get something passed that is good for Washington and then get it to the governor's office for signature.
Absolutely.